Hello! I hope everybody is having a fabulous week. Thank God it's Friday. I know my week was delightful. How was yours? Was it just super gorgeous? I certainly hope so. Today, we welcome you to Magnificent Mythologies. Huzzah! Our guest today is Madison, and we're going to be talking about something very special. So why don't we introduce our guest first? Hey, Madison, tell me a little about you.
Hey, I'm Madison, game designer, university student, and I write things. That's me in a nutshell.
I love it. I love it. Tell me about one of the games that you've designed.
Um, well, it's it's nice that you asked that because I'm actually working on a project right now that I haven't told many people about.
Ooh, we get the scoop.
So I've been working. So one of the things I really like doing is game mechanics, and I'm trying to design a unique system which I can sort of plug into different settings.
Awesome.
Right now, I can't tell you much about it because it's still a work in progress. But what I'm currently looking at is a system that can be modulated to different settings, and it's kind of like a lower power level, more grounded type of rule system. If that makes sense.
Fabulous. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, before we get started, why don't we talk about some of our fabulous sponsors? The first one, of course, is Phoenix Dice. We love Phoenix Dice. And if you hit !raffle, you can get entered to win Phoenix Dice of your very own today. We love them because they make all of their dice out of recycled materials because they love the world we live in just as much as the worlds we play in. So hit that !raffle, and at the end of the stream today, we will be raffling off a set of dice. In addition to that, I would love to thank D&D Beyond and Hero Forge. Hero Forge for making fabulous characters for us. The three-dimensional modeling is incredibly easy. They've got a million different options for you. You can make them anything that you want and pop them directly into your games as tokens, or we use them in our streams as our actual character art. We absolutely adore Hero Forge. So thank you for being our sponsor. And of course, D&D Beyond, because without them, my brain would fall out the side of my head. Because they keep track of everything and they make it real easy to find stuff. So when my players ask me, oh, can we go in this cave here? Well, I hadn't planned on it, but sure. All right, let me look up troll. Let me see. Okay, at least now we have a delightful encounter that I was not prepared for. But D&D Beyond makes it incredibly easy to make it. So, thank you, D&D Beyond. Additionally, thank you, Gemmed Firefly. We love you. Gemmed Firefly is the merch store for the Foundation for Inclusivity in Gaming, which this stream is a part of. The foundation provides all of the funds necessary to convert the story that we are going to be creating today into an actual playable adventure that can be sold online. So, very excited about that. And if you want to help out the Foundation for Inclusivity in Gaming and get a super comfy shirt in the meantime, you can order it from merch. Just type in !merch, and it will send you to the Gemmed Firefly website where you can purchase a fabulous t-shirt. Yay! And finally, I would like to thank Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. If you look at the code on the screen, you will see a 12-digit code that will get you an Electrum chest in-game. This fabulous mobile game where you get to play, guess what? Champions of the Forgotten Realms, yay! My personal favorite is Starlaxle because he's got a fabulous hat, and that's important. It's really the most important. So thank you to all of our sponsors. And finally, we want to say thank you to our publisher, Realm Warp Media, who is actually going to be doing the layout and publishing this book. Hopefully in about, if history tells us anything, it'll be in about 6 to 7 weeks, we will have this book completely finished. and it will be available for sale. So that will be absolutely delightful. Yay! So, big applause for everybody involved today. And now, let's talk about some mythology, shall we?
Right. So first, what we have to do is place ourselves about, I would say, 2,500 years ago.
Okay.
This was a really long time ago, and the Zhou dynasty of China, arguably the first real imperial dynasty, has just collapsed. The different states of the Zhou dynasty, which there's about 7 to 10 of them at any given time, are kind of squabbling, kind of disunified. And during this time, there are several different schools of thought that pop up, because what are people going to do? How should people solve the problems they engage? And we're going to talk about those, because that forms the basis for the adventure.
Awesome. So, what was the name of that dynasty?
That was called the Zhou dynasty. If you're wondering how I spell that, Zhou.
Fabulous. Zhou.
It's very old, and around this time, hundreds of schools are popping up, which is why this is called the 100 Schools of Thought period.
Oh, fabulous.
So, another thing that it's important to mention is that the fragmented states of the Zhou were eventually unified by the Qin. You may know the Qin because they were the first real dynasty of China. The first dynasty of China that really established the foundation for modern Chinese culture. So the Qin were interesting and kind of controversial because they burned a lot of the books of the 100 Schools of Thought. In fact, they burned so many that we only have about 9 left in modern day.
Okay.
Out of thousands, we have less than 10.
Yeah.
And one of those books that did survive, one of the 100 Schools of Thought that did survive in large degree, we're going to talk about today, is Confucianism. Because
fabulous.
It's important to give context into the Confucian teaching for the purposes of this adventure. The basic concept behind Confucianism is, I would say, being nice to people, but also establishing positive relationships, which I think is good. The goal
Absolutely.
of Confucianism is stated to improve the hierarchical relationships between people of different social classes and people of different standing. The idea is not only are people who are lower supposed to do service in this ancient hierarchy, but people who are higher are supposed to benefit those people and to help them and to cooperate with them, which I think is good because it's better than not cooperating, right?
Well, but that's how any sort of society, when you're dealing with a striated society, that's how society has to work, or else society breaks down. If everything is, one of the things that we're experiencing right now is the ever increasing amount of wealth that is flowing to the richest people. And the issue is not that these people have a whole bunch of money. It's that for somebody of average income, you're spending between 90 and 95% of every dollar you earn in your community, purchasing goods and services, like food, going out to eat, getting a new car, paying for gas, like whatever it is. But if you are a billionaire, you are spending less than 5% of the money. So 95% of that money just goes away. Like you have absorbed it, and now it just sort of disappears into the vaults of your of your palace. And when that starts happening, society breaks down. So Confucianism, just from what you're telling me, absolutely makes sense that the nobility has to put the resources that they've gained from the lower classes back to work for everyone.
Absolutely. But something you're also going to like is Confucius said that when that system breaks down, the people on top have lost that place. They've lost that place of prestige.
Yeah.
And what happens is those people tend not to be on top anymore. In fact, this actually happened to the Qin, because the Qin were overthrown after the death of Qin Shi Huang, their leader. When Qin Shi Huang died, his sons were not competent, and so they were overthrown. Interestingly enough, there's also a lot of great stories from this period, but the one I want to talk about is how Confucianism was actually implemented. In that Confucianism taught that you should have some degree of leniency in law as opposed to the Qin's legal system. So what happened is a man named Liu Bang, who was a really minor politician, got arrested because he lost a couple of prisoners, ran away, and so he would have been executed because some of the prisoners ran away, even though he had the majority of prisoners. So he just asked the majority of prisoners who committed minor crimes and were also about to be executed, since we're all going to die anyway, why don't we just become bandits in the woods? And which I think is just funny, because if you're all going to die anyway, why not just go out with a bang? And so that's what they did. And eventually, that original group of bandits grew bigger and bigger and bigger until it formed the Han Dynasty and defeated all the other factions. And that is how Confucianism was implemented, because Liu Bang used the teachings of Confucius, who survived, to establish the Han Dynasty.
Which I absolutely love, and that just the concept of that it's another one of those that absolutely makes sense in modern day, as you see more and more people for minor crimes being thrown into prison and then learning to be essentially, like learning to become criminals while they are inside the prison system, Yeah.
Adding to that, he did what he was supposed to do, and it wasn't his fault that what happened. So as a result, the strict punishments turned him into a bandit king and later.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this goes to show that sometimes leniency is a good thing. So that's kind of the story of how Liu Bang became emperor of China and how Confucianism was implemented in real life.
I love that.
I also want to talk about a sort of companion philosophy to Confucianism, because there's another one called Taoism, which is really complicated. I'm not even gonna pretend like I know all the answers about this, but the best way I can explain it is just sort of living. In the Taoist belief, everything has a sort of natural state, and given time, things will get back to that natural state. So what will happen is people who learn the way of the natural state and understand what the natural balance of the universe is will have an advantage, because the universe is always going to drift back to that balanced state. This is also relevant in modern time because I would say there's a current rise in a lot of bad things, such as elitism and authoritarianism, which obviously isn't great. So what Taoist belief would teach us is that this idea of people abusing power, eventually the natural systems in place will balance themselves out and shift into their natural equilibrium. So that's kind of the two philosophies that you have to think about when I would argue those two philosophies are the foundations of the Chinese culture.
Yeah.
That is why it's important to talk about them, to learn about them, and just to understand that in the context of how Chinese ideas and Chinese philosophy pop up, and how that influences how people act in everyday life, and how it influences our adventure.
Fabulous. I love it. So we have got a situation where you've got one philosophy that is sort of cyclical power structures, where it is everything that goes into it should drive the wheel forward, and that as you push the wheel up, then you're provided with more as the wheel comes back down. And Taoism, which when I have done reading about Taoism, is understanding the natural state, but also allowing the universe to like indicate to you where you should be going and what you should be doing. That the universe will generally let you know what's happening.
Interestingly enough, and I actually want to talk about this because this is really fascinating, Taoists aren't necessarily in favor of good things happening, more that they're in favor of natural things happening. For instance, and obviously no one can be a pure Taoist, and there are inherent contradictions in their philosophy, which are naturally studied a lot among people who study Taoism. But the idea is the universe is gonna do what its natural course is anyway. So rather than trying to obstruct the natural course of the universe, you should learn to adapt to that course. So things are inevitably going to get worse, but it's not bad. It's not horrible for you because you know things are going to get worse and you can prepare for it. That's why historically, a lot of times, Taoism was studied in times of crises because people were like, if there's a time of crisis, then I might as well prepare for it. But Confucianism was studied in times of flourishing, in times where things were good, so people could keep things good. Does that make sense?
I love it. Absolutely. I love it. All right, so what is the story? What bit of mythology, what folklore, what are we going to be exploring today?
Well, I want to go back to the Qin for that because
fabulous.
This intersects with real life, but something important to note is that there was a legend about this. So some people may be aware that the king of Qin, Qin Shi Huang, he was obsessed with immortality and conquering death itself because that was the only thing he could conquer. So what he did was he built an army of about 10,000 statues of warriors, and he had that guard his tomb. But the reason he did that is rooted in the mythology, because it was believed that those soldiers would guard him even in the afterlife. And arguably, it worked in real life, because the Chinese government still will not go into his tomb because they are afraid of damaging the artifacts, including some of the terracotta soldiers. So it worked. They still are guarding him in the afterlife, which I think is hilarious. But obviously this gets into the idea of preservation, and this gets into the idea of how that kind of influences Chinese belief, right? That you can still preserve something even if it isn't physically there by keeping the memory of it alive, and by monumental changes to the world that will still remain even if you are physically not there. In that way, China is very influenced by mythology because you can see like the sort of things that were there before, even if they're not physically there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what is
but what I want to talk about in the context of this adventure is a lot of this adventure's basic idea is, remember when I said most of the texts were burned? This adventure's whole thesis is, what if the player characters of the D&D party can find one of the lost texts?
Fabulous. I love it. So what is the lost text? So we're looking for the lost text of Confucianism?
Yes. See, as I mentioned, there are thousands of texts which we don't have. And
Yeah.
the basic idea is in this kind of fantasy world, with some of the names changed because it's a fantasy world. We're looking for a lost text which contains secrets into improving the lives of people around us. In order to do that, we're traveling to the tomb of the king of Shin, because I changed the name from Shin.
Sure.
Yeah. That is the basic idea of the adventure.
Fabulous. All right, so my first question then would be, does the adventure start at the tomb, or do they have to figure out where the book is?
Well, the fun part is the adventure starts outside of the tomb, and the idea is the players make their way into the tomb, which is the first act. The first act is the players just getting to the tomb, since the tomb is in a very isolated valley. The second act is the players exploring the tomb, and the third act, getting out of the tomb with the book. Because if any of you have ever seen an Indiana Jones movie, for instance,
Oh yeah,
you'll know that it's not always easy to get out of the tomb as it is to get into it. And
fabulous.
a few
All right,
months away.
so let us start then with I think I always like a first chapter to have a chance for everybody to sort of get to know each other, right? That there is, so it's great that it's starting outside the tomb so that people can like interact as they travel. You can have a couple campfire scenes if you want to, all of that good stuff. Let's talk plot hooks. What are the actual plot hooks for this adventure, so that if somebody's running a campaign, they can sort of drop this adventure in the middle of it?
Well, in most campaigns, there's a sort of mission structure, right? Like there's a mission and you have to complete it. So the idea in this one is based on the actual way the actual way the 6 texts and the texts that we have were recovered. In ancient times, there were rewards for recovering those texts, and the idea of the adventure is the players are trying to collect one of those rewards.
So this is a bounty.
Yeah, it's essentially a bounty, but instead of for like a person, it's for the text.
All right, so plot hooks. There is a bounty on this lost text that the players want to recover. All right, fabulous. Who is actually going to be the quest giver? Is this going to be like random thing in a tavern? Is this going to be someone at the local constabulary, a scribe, an archivist?
Well, back in the day, there was sort of a magistrate in every town who didn't really have one job so much as he was like a combination of the mayor, the law enforcement, etc., because he was an educated person who could deal with whatever problems popped up in that town.
Fabulous.
And so the magistrate is the quest giver.
All right, so tell me, what is the name of this magistrate?
The magistrate's name is Zhang.
How do you spell it?
A-N-G. That's Z-H-A-N-G.
Mm-hmm.
And for Meng, that's M-E-N-G. That's M-E-N-G.
So Z-H-A-N-G, N-E-N-G.
M-E-N-G. M as in Madison. Me.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
So Zhang Meng.
Yeah.
Fabulous. All right, cool. So we have got Zhang Meng, magistrate of what is the little town called that we are in?
The little town is called Xinxiang, which is spelled X-I-N, X-I-N, Xiang.
Xiant.
G.
G, thank you. Xinjiang. All right, fabulous. Magistrate.
Yeah.
And all right, so that's our first important person. So chapter 1, the adventurers have been summoned to the
Like magistrate's office.
is
Like,
there a particular like type of building? Because I wanted to say palace, but it's a tiny town, so it probably doesn't have a palace.
well, what would happen is the magistrate would work in an office, right? The office wouldn't be like a modern day office building, obviously. It would just be like a fairly decent sized building in the middle of town that everyone knows where it is and everyone can go there if something they need.
Of the magistrate in order to help recover the lost book of, and what are we calling this?
Let's call it the Book of Ways.
The
Like-
Book of Ways?
Yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah.
Book of Ways. It was buried with Emperor Shin.
Mm-hmm. Remember that Shin is one moment. Remember that Shin is spelled Xin.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So actually,
So,
I want to point out that
Xin.
the town of Xinjiang is actually named after the Shin dynasty because they're very proud that the tomb is nearby. So
Right. I love it.
yeah,
It was buried with Emperor Shin. Emperor Shin, whose tomb lies in an isolated area of the country. All right, cool. So we've got that. Let's jump. So chapter 1 is just getting the adventure and getting to the actual tomb, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Then we'll go back and do a bunch more details and foreshadowing and stuff like that later. Let's get chapter 2 settled. So once we get to the tomb and get inside the tomb,
Mm-hmm.
what happens now?
Well, inside the tomb, the first thing the players will notice is that the tomb is not easy to traverse because the King of Shin was very worried about tomb robbers, people who would go into the tomb and steal the stuff. So because of this, there's a lot of traps inside the tomb. We can detail the specifics later. As well as animated stone warriors.
Oh, fabulous.
I bet you can guess the inspiration there.
I can't. I have no idea. No idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Very difficult to navigate due to the many traps and animated stone warriors on the path to the tomb. All right, so I think on this adventure, one of the things we're going to need is a map.
Absolutely.
So I think that'll be one of the pieces of art on the inside will be a map of the tomb.
Yep.
Okay. So as we get through this, one of the things that we'll do is we will go through each sort of room in the tomb and go over what's in them so that the artist knows where to place the things.
All right, that makes sense.
All right, so so besides traps and warriors, is there anything that is is unique about the tomb?
Well, obviously, since it's the king, the tomb is very elaborately designed. Um, and while we don't know specifics of the actual like tomb that inspired it, obviously here we can go crazy since this is a very magical setting. Obviously, there's like an artificial something I want you to get down is there's an artificial river made of mercury that runs through it,
Okay.
which is
Elaborate
inspired by an
designed.
actual like legendary feature of it. Um,
Elaborate designed tomb. Hold on one sec. So an elaborate designed tomb. Um, we have got a river of mercury running throughout tomb. What other fabulous features are there?
well, holding the tomb up since it's like a big structure is some pillars, and those pillars are made of stone, very elaborately constructed, and the players will maybe, who knows, maybe they'll use them as cover.
Sure. So all right. So we've got pillars are made of stone. I'm assuming that this is a tomb that like you
Yeah,
go in and there's all kinds of different rooms and stuff, or is this just one sort of open space?
well, there's different rooms. The tomb is sort of designed as a imitation of the king's palace when he was alive, and the tomb is designed to reflect that, but he's dead, so it's designed to reflect that new development, shall we say.
Sure. So pillars are made of stone, elaborately carved. Anything else?
Well, how much detail do you need me to go into right now? Because there's a lot that could be in there. So,
So it depends completely on you. If we need more, we can absolutely circle back
well,
and see what's going on there.
absolutely. One more thing I'd like to add is that because the tomb is sort of designed as like a store, not only a storehouse, but also just like a home for the king in the afterlife. There's a lot of very fine things there, preserved using magic. Like there's a sort of like things he would have in life. Like there's stone horses for if he wants to go on a ride or something. There's a stone there's a lot of like obviously there's a lot of earthwork. There's porcelain, in there, like just like a little pottery, there's sort of imitations of things that the king would have had as a living person.
Tapestries, pottery, etc. All the comforts of the palace. Okay, fabulous.
Yeah.
All right. And so is chapter 2 just navigating the traps and the stone warriors?
Yeah, I also want to say chapter 2 ends with the players finding the book.
Okay.
That's how it ends. And I imagine the ending of chapter 2, not only do they find the book, but they find out that the book was actually buried in the same chamber as like the king's like body. And so that's kind of where the second chapter has a dramatic finish,
So all right, so explain to me, why is that? So that's what I had in mind the whole time. Would normally in a tomb, would the king be buried separately from their prized possessions?
Well, my idea is that the king is like in the equivalent of a bedchamber, right? Since he's not dead, he's sleeping. So the reason it's both like so because of the king like being buried there, the book is like near him, so so an imitation of sometimes people have books in like their bedroom, kind of like that. However, the thing that will pose the most trouble to players is because this is also a very secure part, because no one wants because the king's body is obviously very important and people want to guard him even in the afterlife, which means that there are some guardians there.
Sure.
Yep.
Absolutely. So there's okay, so so the 3-act structure is get to the tomb, get the book, leave the tomb.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay. So all right, so what are the impediments in chapter 3 to actually leaving the tomb?
Well, there are two main. The chapter 2 is divided into two little stages, sort of like
Okay.
halves. The first part is upon taking the book, everything in the tomb like goes kind of berserk and is just like after you. And this actually triggers some like, and this actually triggers like I don't know, like a countdown, right? And this, and what the characters have to do is escape the tomb before everything just goes like completely crazy and just like because the tomb is like rigged to like have like extra security if it needs it.
Okay, so I'm gonna hold you off there.
Yeah.
So, are the traps and the guardians that people are experiencing when they go into the tomb, are those different than the traps and the guardians when they try to escape the tomb?
Well, taking the book, well, I want to just get something out of the way. What happens is the sort of traps and guardians in the tomb have two modes, right? There's the passive mode where they aren't as active and they aren't as active and the players can do things like sneak past them. But like active mode occurs when the players take something. Which is why I also want to get in that like they're warned not to take anything they don't need from the tomb, which is why they can't just run off of like all the 700 gold pieces. The reason for that is if as soon as they take something, everything enters active mode, and everything is just like sort of like hyperactive. They're active.
Sure. Okay, so question about that. Is there anything that they are allowed to take?
Aside from the book,
well, no, is the book, what I'm asking, are they allowed to take the book?
Well, yeah, they're allowed to take the book, but because of the book, they kind of have to trigger active mode if they want to escape with the book.
So then let's say that they're not allowed to take the book, because at that point, then active mode would get triggered as they're leaving.
Well, serves the thing that is kind of the dilemma is they kind of have to turn on like the stuff.
No, absolutely, that's the whole point. So
Yeah,
it's like so what we need to get out of the sort of frame of reference is this is not about the players. We're just designing the tomb. So let's design a tomb that is going to protect these things, and then the players have to figure out a way to get through it. That'll make it much more interesting for the players, giving them like a specific road, a map as to how you do this and then how you get back out will sort of diminish the creativity and that spark in the players. So what are the things that they're allowed to take? Like, let's say they run into the tomb and they grab a thing. What is the thing they're allowed to take that isn't going to set off the traps?
Actually, now that I think about it, so I should probably explain how active mode is triggered first, since that makes sense. It's triggered with a magical, it's triggered with sort of a magical alarm system, using powerful abjuration magic. So what the players would have to do in order to take something is figure out how to sort of switch the alarm system like off temporarily.
Okay, all right. So I think that what we're doing is we're trying to figure out a way to give the players, because what you're describing right now is just completely negating the entire third act of this story by turning off this magical abjuration spell, right? So we need them to take, so it's fabulous that there's an abjuration spell, totally great. And then let's figure out how that gets triggered, moving the traps into active mode so that this super easy, because it can absolutely be that like Act 2 is, it's easy to sneak around. They think they figured out all these traps, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it gets terrifying,
Yeah,
So
it gets
there
absolutely
is,
crazy.
all right, so in chapter 2, Animated Stone Warriors on the Path to the Tomb. The tomb is covered in a powerful abjuration magic that will trigger when why don't we say when the players take something of more than like one gold piece of value or something.
That makes sense. Like, so it guards the most valuable possessions.
Yeah. That will, because I could totally see like leaving just like a chest of gold coins in the front so that grave robbers can come and take one gold coin and head out, instead of disturbing everything else. Will trigger when when anyone takes an item worth more than one gold piece. All right, so there's when it triggers. So let's talk about what chapter 3 looks like. Is this a series of traps, or do you want to turn the entire tomb into one complex trap?
Let's think about that for a moment. My idea of what would happen is hang on a moment. Yeah. My idea of what would happen is the traps in the tomb are sort of like how the guards have a passive and active mode. The traps, like, normally the traps only are triggered if you do like some specific actions, but like what I'm thinking might happen is active mode makes them like easier to trigger. Does that make sense?
Okay, it does. I think maybe you should look for something a little more dramatic than that. Yes. Yeah.
I like that. That makes perfect sense. I love that. Now that I think about it, what I'm thinking might happen is sort of a lock on certain rooms. And the lock is the puzzle, right? So that's what I'm thinking. And so if the players can decode the lock, they get a reward. They open the door to the room. And there might be some stuff in the room that they might want. But once Act 3 is triggered, the puzzle becomes a trap, and it's less friendly, shall we say.
So I think in that situation, I think first of all, you can get absolutely brutal if you want. Like, do not worry about the players. The crazier the trap, the more they're gonna love it. Well, but what we can say is, if you want to do a puzzle instead, then it could be that, let's say there are 4 components to a huge complex trap that includes all of the things that you wanted to have trapped before in chapter 3. And there's a direct path to the bedroom with the book. So the players could absolutely, dodge like a couple of stone warriors, like sneak past them, all that kind of stuff, get to the bedroom and grab the book immediately if they wanted to. But that would trigger the full complex trap. Whereas if they go to each room and figure out the puzzle there, that will weaken one component of the trap that they have to face once they
That
grab
makes
the book.
sense. I like that.
So there is, all right, so we'll do chapter 3, escaping the tomb
Mhm.
requires minimizing and turning off a huge complex trap with 4 components.
Mhm.
All right. I think, all right, so let's talk about, first, I think let's talk about the traps themselves, because we can base the puzzles on both the trap and a teaching of Confucianism.
Absolutely.
That way, everything gets tied back into the cultural significance of the book and the power that the book has and why it's so important. There's
a suggestion.
Of course, this is your story.
What if the book, right? What if the players can actually read the book and the book contains some ideas of how to deal with the traps?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that since the book is is essentially the teachings of the sages, so
let's see, there is in the far corner of the tomb lies the bedchamber of the emperor. When within the bedchamber is the Book of Ways. This book will help the players solve the various traps they will encounter.
Mhm.
All right, so why don't we... Yes, let's talk traps first. All right, so with a complex trap, typically what it is there will be like anywhere from like 1 component to like 5 components, right? And each component is separate, but it all adds together to make it more and more dangerous. And typically complex traps take a while to get going, but once they're going, they're absolutely deadly. And each component can be broken or diminished in order to remove the threat of that thing while you're still taking damage from all the other traps. So I feel like Stone Warriors is absolutely going to need to be a component of this complex trap. Does that make sense to you too?
yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's see. How many?
What do you mean?
How many warriors would you like to have? Is there a special number that was special to Confucius that we could use?
I wouldn't say there's a special like specific number, but let's see. My I wouldn't say there's a specific special number, but a cohort of like 10 would be good.
All right, cool.
And the cohort could be sort of like placed in various locations, just like as a sort of deterrent.
So the warriors are present from the beginning, and there are 10 of them. So for a complex trap, what I'd suggest is that a new warrior gets activated every round. So every round there's a new combatant in the
That
tomb.
makes sense. That makes sense.
Let's see. Every round, another warrior comes to life. All right, cool. What is going to be the second trap that they're going to be dealing with?
You know, something that just occurred to me is the historic uses of fire as a weapon,
Yep,
which is always a fun trap.
absolutely.
Uh, something that just popped up into my head is that,
I'm sorry, can we use fireworks?
well, not only that, but according to an old like Chinese legend, in the Han Dynasty, the what was invented was basically a medieval flamethrower,
Fabulous.
which
I love
I
it.
just think is awesome. So, obviously there's a somewhat little historical evidence that actually happened, but this is based on mythology, so it will be fun.
So having access to, I mean, because it's what a first level spell is, burning hands. So anybody with like a basic court mage would have access to that spell.
Well, not only that, but if you put it into like a machine that can cast it for you,
Yep,
there you go.
absolutely.
It's a little trap.
I would love if there was. Oh,
you have an idea?
could we do a thing where it's like I get this sense of dominoes where it's like the first round the trap goes off and shoots like flames across like a chunk of the room, right? And what that does is it lights a fuse on one side and you see like a section of the wall like just flip down, and that shoots a bunch of fireworks across the room, like doing damage and blinding people. And then those fireworks set off something on the opposite wall, so that every round, the number of fireworks getting shot intensifies.
It's like dominoes, but deadly.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's great. All right, so there is, so we have got a firework trap. All right, so let me see. Every round another one comes to life. We will create a stat block for these. For these. Hold on one sec. We will create a stat block for these. Then the firework trap. Each round, the fireworks set off other fireworks in greater number, increasing the damage and DC of blindness. All right, cool. What's the third trap? So we got stone warriors and fireworks now.
Well, you know what they say? When you have fire, water is always a fun addition.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like there's also a lot of famous stories about like generals who would divert water onto their enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you can't fight if you're drowning. So
yeah, very much so. Let's see. All right, so if that's the case, something that we need to do is we need to make sure that if the water is rising, it's not putting out the fireworks.
Well, the tomb is divided into specific areas, right? So there could be areas that are lower elevation that will flood.
Fabulous. Okay, so let me see. We've got. All right. I like it. The issue is that when you're dealing with a complex trap, you want to try to keep people in one space so that they have to deal with all of the craziness that's going on instead of diverting them to another area. Or you could absolutely create like what looks like a safe room that then like the doors lock behind them and it starts filling up with water.
Yeah. That
Okay.
I like that.
God. Oh my God.
That could work too. That could definitely work too. I like the oil idea.
Okay, fabulous. Let's do. All right. So there's going to be rising water mixed with oil that starts burning when hit with the fireworks. Okay, cool. And what is the fourth one? So we now have, so I feel like the way that it sort of starts is round one,
Mm-hmm.
you have one warrior
Mm-hmm.
appear and get things going, right?
Yeah.
Round two, you now have two warriors and the first fireworks going off.
Mm-hmm.
Round three, you have three warriors, more fireworks, and now the water is like, let's say 1 foot deep.
Yeah.
And then round four, you've got 4 warriors, more fireworks. It's 2 feet deep now, starting to impede movement and burning. And what's the final trap?
I just realized something. We haven't done anything with the ceiling.
Sure.
Something like I'm not sure exactly what, but something coming from the ceiling would just complete it. Like we've got the walls, we've got the floor, ceiling. You know?
Absolutely. Let's look at, this'll be fun. I'm gonna look at some oozes and see if there are any that are immune to fire. Because then you could then you could have oozes start dropping from the ceilings, wandering through the water and just eating people.
I do love oozes.
All right, let's look at this. This is delightful. All right. First off, what level adventure is this for? Because I don't want to throw in a CR10 or something.
I was originally thinking it like around level 4 or 5, I think. So still room to do stuff, still room to do a lot of stuff, but not like a super high level. So.
All right, let's see. So gelatinous cube is out. Ochre jelly, that's lightning and acid. Let's do a black pudding. Immunity, acid, cold, lightning, slashing. Where's my fire? Come on, fire. Let's damage immunities. Dragon blood ooze. I think that's the huge gray ooze, but that's a CR8. I don't know. So Dragon Blood Ooze is a CR5. So I feel like if like the soldiers, if the Stone Warriors are all like CR1 or 2 in that area, and then in the 4th round, suddenly this CR5 creature then drops on you after you're trying to deal with all this other stuff. That'll be sort of a nice crowning achievement. Okay.
Yep.
So the final one is a Dragon Blood Ooze falls from a container in the ceiling. Okay, cool. So we've got these. So the first thing we need to figure out is how much damage they're going to do, right? So if the warriors are CR1, they're probably going to do like 1d6 plus 1 damage or something like that
Well,
in a round.
well, I imagine warriors are just like equipped with like basic like weapons that people like back then would have had, like swords or spears or bows, etc.
So let's keep in this situation, let's keep it to melee weapons because I think ranged weapons might make it a little too difficult.
That's fair. That's fair. So obviously in those times you would have like swords, spears. There's also I'm not sure if I'm not sure how you would represent this, but there's one called the G. There isn't really a good translation for it. It's sort of like a long pole with like a little curvy blade at the end.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. There's
Like the little pokey thing,
yeah, I feel like that would be the same as sort of like a long spear
Yeah.
damage. So I'm just gonna look at
Yeah, like damage wise would
weapons.
be like, yeah.
Let's look at weapons. I need a weapon list. Why isn't there just an easily accessible weapons list? Weapon list. Is there, come on, give me a fabulous weapons list. No, we don't want to do that. Okay. Equipment. Let's look at equipment. All right. There is, I'm gonna look for spear. Show me spear. There we go. All right, a spear does 1d6 piercing. Yeah. So I feel like that would be legit. We can do that. And then if they need to make it more challenging, then the spear can be thrown.
Yeah.
Weapon is a, and how do you spell the name of that weapon?
G is just J-I.
Okay. Weapon is a G. Use spear.
Well,
stats.
Well, you could also like you could also give it reach instead of instead of having it be able to be thrown, which is sort of like what they were used to do historically. So.
Oh, sure. Fabulous. Okay, so use spear stats. I think that's what they do with spears.
Well, spears are able to be thrown, if I remember correctly.
They are. Okay, yeah.
Spears don't have reach.
So we'll do use spear stats, but can't be thrown
With
as reach instead. All right, fabulous. So that'll be 1d6 damage from each statue. So like potentially each round.
Yeah.
The fireworks trap, I think let's start the let's see, so fireworks will do, I think that the 1d6 damage in general I think will be good, because by the time you get to like 4th or 5th level, you're talking about like 7 or 8 d6 damage potentially every round.
Yeah.
So for a 5th level character, that'll take you down real quick. So let's do fireworks. We'll do 1d6 damage, and blind characters.
This is pretty vicious.
Each round, the damage goes up by 1d6, and blind characters, if they don't save against a DC. Let's start it at a DC, like, let's say 11, because you want to give them some rounds where they're actually not blind.
You want to give them a little bit of breathing room,
Yeah, each round the damage goes up by 1d6, and the DC goes up by 1. So round 2 it's 12, then 13, so on and so forth. All right, rising water mixed with oil that starts burning when hit with the fireworks. Um, uh, I think so. In let's
Like
see, and this is going
real
to
terms,
be
that might cause like difficult terrain, I guess.
in round one. I'm going to say fireworks begins in round two. All right, so each round the water rises by 1 foot.
Mhm.
I think on this one the oil should remain a sort of constant damage instead of increasing damage each round.
That makes sense.
So do we want to do like maybe a 1d8 on that fire damage?
That sounds reasonable. 1d8, 1d8 like from the fire damage. For 5th level characters, I think that sounds reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. Each round, all characters in the water will take 1d8 damage. All right, cool. Then, at what point does the water put out the fireworks?
That's a good question.
I feel like it should be like 6 feet, because at that point it should be right at the heads or just above the heads of everybody at that point.
Yeah, like
Meaning that like if you don't get this shit handled real quick, like you will either be fighting underwater or you're gonna be drowning, or you're gonna be trying to swim around, and these stone statues that are gonna be standing on the bottom are just gonna just be stabbing.
Yeah, because the stone doesn't need to breathe, so
It's fine. And all characters in the water will take 1d8 damage from burning oil. The water counts as difficult terrain until it is at 5 feet. At 6 feet, the water soaks the fireworks, stopping their damage. But now the characters must fight while submerged. And let's see, this begins on round 3. Okay. Dragon blood ooze falls from the container in the ceiling. This begins on round 4. So, as of round 4, these characters are now going to be facing 4 stone warriors, 4d6 damage, and a DC 15 blind check. 1d8 fire damage from the water and difficult terrain, and now a CR5 ooze that is immune to fire and most other things. Do we feel like a 5th level character would be able to handle that?
Let me just quickly do some little mathematics in my head.
Because I feel like we might need to pop it up to 7s.
Like 6, 7, that range.
Yeah, I think that'll give them enough of a boost and give them access to those 4th level spells that'll help them survive this insanity.
It is insanity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Title. All right, so an adventure for levels 6 to 7.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Which also gives them a reason to be there, because the magistrate, like, they would have been at least locally known as adventurers, so the magistrate might have sent for them.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we've got the complex trap sorted out, right? And there is the added benefit of having to keep the book safe.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I
all of this is happening.
Like, paper is not particularly fond of fire and oil.
Yeah, so the adventurers must keep the book safe throughout. All right, so the first thing I will ask is, what does the Book of the Ways teach us about warriors?
Well, something that was always taught in like Confucian teaching is the obligation between master and servant. And warriors, like, they're part of an army, so they're part of a hierarchy. So you might be able to exploit that hierarchy to get the warriors to like stop attacking you. At least that's the first thing.
Ooh, you know what we could do? Is say that the Dragon Blood Ooze is in fact like the general, essentially. And once the Dragon Blood Ooze dies, the warriors will stop attacking.
That makes sense. Maybe the kind of backstory behind the Dragon Blood Ooze, now that I think about it, is how do we make an ooze again? Okay, so my idea is like the ooze sort of not only outranks them, but also like this is just a lore thing. The ooze sort of has a sort of ooze mind. I don't know how to describe it, but like it sort of like has the preserved mind of an officer. So.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. And the ooze is just like where the like gelatinous storage of that mind. So.
I love it. It could very well be that the Emperor had an advisor who was a dragon.
Yeah.
And this is what happened. Like, when the dragon died, this is how they preserved them. So let's see what all right, now it's time for foreshadowing. Yay!
Yeah.
There is the tomb is protected by, what was the dragon's name?
Now I have to think for a moment. There is kind of like a famous dragon, in kind of like a dragon-like being in Chinese mythology, named Gong Gong.
Okay.
And we could just name the dragon Gong Gong after the historic dragon. So.
Fabulous. Let's do that then. I think that sounds glorious. Give me just a moment, as I just spilled hot water from pouring tea everywhere. So I'm just gonna set that up with some napkins over here and hope that it doesn't destroy any of my electronics. I think we got it in time. I think we're good. I think we're good.
Water is not good for adventures, books, or electronics.
No. So the tomb is protected by, and how do you spell that dragon's name?
Gong Gong. If you want, I can type out like Oh wait, I can't edit it. Uh, don't worry. It's spelled Gong.
Okay. Taken by the dragon Gong Gong.
Yeah.
This dragon was killed in the final battle of the Emperor's reign, but still resides in the temple, still resides in the tomb as a dragon blood ooze.
If I may, I'd also like to share the story of how mythological Gong Gong actually died.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
So mythological Gong Gong actually did die. Specifically, the gods killed him. Basically, Gong Gong staged a rebellion against the gods in heaven. And what happened was the gods were just like, nah, we're not dealing with this anymore, and they just kill him.
Okay, so Gong Gong tried to mount a rebellion against heaven.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened in the mythology. So we could incorporate that, saying that Gong Gong's heard the emperor and the Gong Gong had hubris, which was very great, and so they turned against the gods.
Okay. All right. Ooh, you know what? I feel like this, now we're starting to get into some interesting backstory. Yeah. All right. So, the tomb was protected by the dragon Gong Gong. Emperor Shin was defeated by the champions of several gods when he mounted an assault on Celestia. Because I feel like Bahamut would absolutely get bitchy at a dragon that tried to take over heaven.
Mythologically, it was just, well, according to Chinese mythology, all the gods just sort of live in this magical sky. There's a word for it called tian, which sort of means heaven and sky. Quick little Chinese lesson. This is also how time is distinguished. For instance, today in Chinese is Jin Tian. Just a little language lesson. So.
Fabulous. I love it. All right, mounted an assault on several gods when he mounted an assault on heaven. After his defeat, his general was placed in his tomb. His dragon Gong Gong was placed in the tomb to guard it, and the Book of Ways was placed at his bedside in order for him to understand the misguided nature of his hubris. So I like the idea, and let me know if this is totally off base. I like the idea of him being locked in a tomb by himself with this book till his dying days to learn a lesson.
I love that. Oh, and you know the best part? It has a historical tie too, because it's sort of like a taste of his own medicine. Because the historical Qin Shi Huang, what he did when people disagreed with him was he would just bury them alive. And so this is sort of like a taste of his own medicine.
Oh shit. Okay, perfect. I love it. All right, so he gets locked in his tomb with this book in order to teach him a lesson.
Yeah.
You know what I would love is that uh, when the adventurers find the book, it's never been opened. Like the
I
emperor
love
just
that.
refused even to look at it. It's got
I
nature of
imagine
his
just
hubris.
like in like yeah, like they just find it completely unopened and like it's still like in
Um,
perfect condition.
and
They touch it.
oh my God, who's placed at his bedside in order for him to understand the misguided nature of hubris, he would be released whenever he fully read and understood the philosophy
Mhm.
of the Book of Ways.
Mhm.
And I would love if there was like some sort of thing where it's like the the magistrate lets them know that, like, you know, we think that the Book of Ways is just, it is so difficult for a person to understand that the emperor simply never could fully comprehend, like no one can ever fully comprehend it, and that was the punishment. And then the adventurers get there, start reading the book, and it's like, no, it's just be nice to people, it's don't be an asshole.
Yeah, like
And he never even looked at the goddamn book. There,
I love that.
there is at least not fully read and understand the philosophy of the Book of Ways. Um, the magistrate is sure that the reason that the emperor never made it out of the tomb is because the philosophies in the book are so complex that it would take several lifetimes to understand them.
Mhm.
All right, fabulous. So let's head over to chapter 2, where the book will help the players. So the book, when examined, has never been opened. And I think there should be, I think what we can do in round 2 or in chapter 2 is that once they have there's like a line that they have to cross before the traps will activate,
Mhm.
right? So they can go and check out the various puzzles. There'd be like 4 rooms where there's a puzzle on each room that has to do with some sort of aspect of the philosophy.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, so with warriors, you said that so the dragon is their general.
Mhm.
And if you take out the dragon blood ooze, then the warriors will not attack.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if we should have something different. If there would be something, because you don't want to just completely destroy a part. I'm realizing you don't want to just completely destroy a part of the trap.
Yeah.
You want to diminish the power. You want to give them the chance in chapter 2 to diminish the power of the trap, which will give them more time to like get rid of the trap itself, right? So, ooh, what is? So tell me about some of the philosophies in Confucianism. What is the philosophy about violence in general in Confucianism?
So interestingly, this is actually the subject of much debate, because obviously violence is important, is kind of interesting, you know, like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. But what I'm thinking is we'd actually take a little inspiration, and say that generally, in Confucian philosophy, violence is should only be used when necessary, and like is generally like is generally something that should be avoided. So that's just what I have. Like,
Sure. So let us
well,
let's
another
say that
thing,
yeah.
another thing I just want to point out is violence in Confucian philosophy is often a reflection of cause rather than just like a thing in and of itself. So it depends on why you're doing it. So yeah,
Okay. So if you are protecting something, like a
yeah.
book, for instance, is that violence acceptable?
If you're protecting something, yeah. Um,
Okay.
uh, Obviously, like in Confucian philosophy, it's all about loyalty, right?
Oh, sorry. I think I just figured
You
it
have
out.
something?
Yeah, okay, so what if in the first room, what you have is you have a box that the book will fit into that will protect the book? Because the warriors aren't coming out to kill the people, the interlopers, they're coming out to save the book from the fire and the water. So the
That makes
warriors won't
sense.
activate.
I like
Okay,
that.
so let's see. So we will do, um, all right. All right, so C. There are 4 rooms in the tomb that can be explored.
Hmm.
Um, Above the door of the first room is the marking for um, let's call this chapter 2, page 4, which reads. So it'll tell you which page of the book you need to open to actually enter the room
Well,
or to
actually,
figure out what this is.
I want to point out a little thing.
Yeah.
Historically, not only were there like chapters in a lot of these texts, but there are also specific passages labeled. So it could be chapter,
Okay.
yeah, chapter X, passage Y. So
Fabulous. So let's say chapter 2, passage 4, which reads violence in protection of something, and violence and protection of the sacred is only necessary when the sacred has no protection.
Mhm.
And then inside will be this box. It'll look sort of like a storeroom.
Mhm.
And there will be, all right, so inside of the door of the first room, all right, let's shift this so that it is, there we go. There we go. Inside this room is a series of alcoves with boxes displayed. Each box is of a different material. All are valuable, but one is filled, is, let's say, mithril and filled with oiled leather, making it waterproof. this is the only container that fits the book perfectly. If the players put the book in this protective case, the warriors will not come to life in chapter 3. All right, fabulous. So we've got that. Then above the door of the second room. So, what does Confucianism say about celebration?
Good question. Let me think about this for a moment. So, a lot of the goal of Confucianism, along with the goal of a lot of like philosophies in ancient times, was to avoid avoid excessive accumulation of stuff and of just like keep people on track. And so a lot of the passages are about temperance and about restraint. So that's just like kind of the idea that I have going in.
Fabulous. So, let's see. I feel like in that situation, if fireworks are a representation of the celebration
Mhm.
of temperance,
Mhm.
I think. Oh, let's make this one about the water. If we want to do temperance in this situation, let's make it about water.
That works.
Something along the lines of the palace of heaven flies high, but the heavier your pockets, the faster you sink.
Mhm.
And I think with this, if the adventurers, like as they open the room,
Mhm.
there is like just piles of treasure.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
And then if they take any treasure, then absolutely immediately like the water will start. Right?
That ties into the original like idea also. So
The what?
the original idea that like taking the treasure is like
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is, so that'll start. So if they take any of the treasure, that will start the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
This room is full of treasure. If they take any, the trap will be sprung immediately. Let's see. All right, so the room is full of treasure. If they take any, the trap will be sprung immediately. But if they empty their pockets and add money to the piles, the water will only be water without oil in chapter 3. All right, cool. So it'll just be some difficult terrain instead of actively burning them. All right, let's see.
Actually burned, yeah.
Yeah. Above the door of the third room. Let's see. Let's have this one be then about the fireworks. Do we have what does Confucianism say about passion?
Well, in Confucianism, part of the goal is kind of like not to be like emotionless, but to just like have the ability to control your behavior and to be able to act rationally and in accordance with what you need to do.
Fabulous. All right. In that situation, I feel like there should be some way to sort of diminish the fireworks.
Well, I thought of something. The fireworks, obviously, like they're bright and they distract you a lot. But if you overcome that distraction, maybe there could be a path to disabling the fireworks. If instead of like being like driven being driven to make hasty decisions, what you do instead is you look for the way the fireworks are being triggered and you can sort of stop them. How's that sound?
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. There is this would be delightful. Okay, so in the room, because you don't want to make hasty decisions, in the room, there is a model. There is a picture. I don't know how to spell picture on the floor of the entire tomb. As you step on the picture, a spark appears, showing the path of the fireworks in chapter 3. If you stand still long enough, the floor will show you that there is a spot in the center of the tomb that the fireworks never hit. If you stand in that spot, you can attempt let's call it a sleight of hand check.
All right, I like that.
Sleight of hand check to catch the fireworks as they shoot across the room, thereby stopping the chain reaction. But if you're anywhere else, if you're anywhere outside of the very center of the room, the fireworks are just going to hit you.
Yeah.
So there's nothing you can do. But if you are in the center of it and you know that this is what's going on, then you can try to catch it.
Yeah.
So you have to remain still. You have to remain serene and focused in the midst of all of this. I love it. Let's see. What is something that can be written above the door to sort of indicate that? Finding.
Let's see.
In the center lies stillness. In stillness lies clarity. In clarity lies success. Something like that?
Yeah.
And all right, fabulous. Okay, cool. So we've got one where you have to protect the book, and that'll shut down the warriors. One where you give away treasure, and that helps reduce the threat of the water. One where it shows you where patience, essentially, and clarity will allow you to succeed in that third trap. And let's see, so above the door of the fourth room. Okay, so this is going to be about the dragon.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything you can do at this point with the ooze, because I don't know that the ooze would respond to anything, right? I think really what you can do in this situation is you can diminish the threat from the rest of the traps, and then you're facing the ooze. You're facing just a CR5 thing as a level 6 or 7 group.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't be too difficult.
That makes sense.
Yeah, facing it in the midst of 3 other traps going off is difficult. Okay, fabulous. Let's so I feel like above the fourth room, some obstacles can never be removed from your path. Some lessons, no, some yes.
One thing I just thought of this. That makes sense because the ethos of Confucianism versus Taoism is more about finding natural ways to make your dealing with something easier, but Confucianism is more about dealing with situations in a very straightforward and understandable way.
Yeah.
So that's just something I noticed. So kind of fits with the ethos.
Yay! I love it.
Yeah.
Moved from your path. Some guardians can only be defeated, never subdued.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. And inside this room is the story of the war with heaven. And here it is revealed that the dragon Gong was entombed with the emperor. The emperor never learned any lessons from the book, so the dragon wasted away. All right, fabulous. Away, trapped with its obstinate master. All right, fabulous.
Mhm.
All right, so we've got how to. All right, so we've got how to defeat the warriors.
Mhm.
I feel like honestly, it is just a very straightforward. Like we're going into this tomb. We've got a thing. There are ways to escape
Mhm.
these things. There's do we want there to be something in chapter 2 besides learning the lessons? Do we want to have like those rooms trapped in and of themselves?
That's a good question. Hmm.
Because I feel like, if the way that this is going, it's probably going to be a pretty, I don't want to say standard. It's going to be pretty lore heavy and pretty role play heavy. And I think that if we add like a little trap, like not a major trap, but like a little trap to each room,
Well,
that'll sort of increase what's going on, the tension in chapter 2.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Um. Hmm.
Let's see. All right, so in each room, in the first room, it's got all the different boxes. Do you just want to have a thing where it's like each box that isn't the right box has like a poison spike
Oh,
or
that's
something like a poison trap?
yeah. Little poison. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
Let's see if it's
Well,
perfectly. Each other box is attached to a poison trap that will go that a poison. Let's do a poison needle trap, so it's not like everybody getting hit. A poison needle trap.
what I'm imagining is you just open it and it shoots a little needle at your face. So
Yeah. Let's say DC 15 for these guys. DC 15 or take 2d6 poison damage and gain the poisoned poisoned status. That's still not spelled. Pull it together, Kyle. You know how to spell this. All right, that's easy enough.
the second room also seems fairly straightforward because that seems fairly straightforward because the goal is to stay still and understand what's going on. But if you don't stay still and understand what's going on, and there's a little fire, you could like get burned.
Why don't we do that? This is not actual fire, that it's a spark. So that there's one of the things that I like to mix up damage types so that if there's somebody that's got resistance or something like that, then there's occasions when everybody can take a little damage. All right, so stopping the chain reaction. The spark that shows the path of the fireworks will shoot at anyone who moves while it is active, doing I'll say 1d6 damage, because I feel like that's a lesson that they're going to have to learn a couple times.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like players are not going to quite understand what's going on there until it happens more than once. There's the second room I feel like is fine. That there is that's a pretty straightforward choice. And I feel like the fourth room, I don't feel like the fourth room needs a trap.
You know what would be fun? If the fourth room is just ominously empty.
Right? It's just like the image that I have is just that it's empty and there's just murals on the wall. Like this is just a space where you learn the story.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
The room is empty except for the murals on the wall. And yeah, just a couple of little traps. Add a little bit of danger, but nothing crazy. Everyone's like, "Oh, I got this. It's fine. We're fine."
Mhm.
All right, let's see. So in chapter 3, warriors, 10 of them. If the players cast detect magic, the warriors will glow. Firework trap is not magical. Dragon blood ooze is sort of, but it's a creature. It's not, and it doesn't fall under any of the auspices. So I think that's fine. Yeah, because all the other stuff besides the warriors is mechanical or natural.
Yeah.
And as far as an ooze can be natural.
Natural in this context.
Yes. So, all right. So I like it. I think chapter 1 is going to need a little more. So I feel like chapter 2, once you're in the tomb, there's a shitload to explore. There's a whole bunch of stuff to discover about what's going on. The tomb is beautiful. We'll definitely need to write sort of a DM read this description thing. And I think chapter 3, just getting through, you know what? I'm going to say in chapter 2, no, I think it's fine. I think it'll still be enough.
Right.
So I think in chapter 3, just dealing with the complexity of the trap is going to be the thing. So, we needed to add a thing. As soon as the trap is sprung, all the exits are sealed and will not be unsealed until the dragon blood ooze is dead.
Well, you mentioned chapter 1, and I actually had a little bit of an idea for it.
Fabulous.
So my idea of it was, what if during chapter 1 we give so chapter 1 is the beginning, right? So we can include a little bit of foreshadowing about what's to come. And the way I thought about that is introducing little elements of what the reign of the King of Shin was actually like.
Fabulous. So first of all, how long ago, in this fantasy setting, how long ago was the reign of Emperor Shin?
I would say about several generations ago.
Do we want to say 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years?
100 and 200 years, yeah.
Okay. So Emperor Shin, who ruled 150 years ago, was defeated by the champion of several gods. When he mounted an assault on heaven after his defeat, his dragon Gongon was placed in the tomb to guard it, and the Book of Ways was placed in his bedside in order for him to understand the misguided nature of his hubris. He would be released whenever he fully read and understood the philosophy of the Book of Ways. All right, cool. So they want to recover the lost book. Was the rule of this emperor, was it good? Was it bad? Was it middle of the road?
Well, what I imagined was he was very strict, and that was both a good and bad thing, since he's taking inspiration from the actual Qin Shi Huang. What I imagine, right, is so he enforces all the laws, which is good, I guess, but he enforces them very harshly. And so there's a lot of evidence that the players can find, lots of artifacts that they can find in the valley that deal with how how kind of methodical and like orderly. It's almost the kind of tyranny that his reign was. So
Oh,
that's kinda like,
what about this? So they need 3 keys to open the tomb. So that's what chapter 1
I like it.
is finding the 3 keys, and each one will be in a spot that'll teach you a little something about the thing. Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
let's say there are 3 keys needed to open the tomb. Let's see. The first key is I know in Chinese mythology there is like this separation of the waters, the earth, and the heavens. That
Yeah.
is. Do we want to do those 3 keys? The key of the water, the key of the earth, and the key of the heavens?
Let's see. Hmm.
Or do we want it to pick something else, some other thematic agent?
Let me think of what comes in freeze. Hmm.
Oh, they could be clues to the 3 rooms that help you disarm traps.
I love it. That works.
So it would be the first key is let's call it
The key
the
of stone.
key. The what?
So, the something I noticed is that the keys and traps are match like elements. The first key could be the key of stone, like because of the stone warriors. The second
Fabulous.
is the key of fire because of the fire. And the third, the key of water because of the water. So,
I love it. Okay, so the first key is the key of stone.
Mhm.
And to fit in with that, the key is, I feel like we don't want these to be like whole adventures in and of themselves. We want this to be able to be done in like one thing. So I feel
Yeah.
like this first part, like chapter 1 should take maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Right.
Like my idea is that like it isn't like super difficult to get the keys, but it does give you insight into like the kind of like circumstances they were created in. So,
Yeah. So the key of stone. I think. Ooh, what if the key of stone is around the neck of the prison warden? And that shows you just how strict the laws are in this area. As you go through, the warden will tell you about, you know, like this person, this person was, rude to the magistrate's wife and he is due for execution in, like a day or something like that. There's key of stone. This key is held by the warden of the imperial prison. There is the key is held by the warden of the imperial prison. What's a creature? What is like an earth creature that we could pull in here from Chinese mythology? Who is kind?
You know what's fun? Those guardian lions. Those guardian lions are kind of like symbolic like protector things, and like you'd put one of those. Those are fun.
Fabulous. The key is held by the warden of the imperial prison. The warden is a guardian lion.
Yeah.
Who will talk about the history of now the guardian lion who. All right, so in this situation do we want to show them how to solve the riddle first instead of, so why don't we want it to protect, so Um, huh. There's I feel like all right. Let's come back to that. There's something working, but it hasn't quite gotten there yet. So let's look at the second key is the key of water.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like, ooh, what if it is on their way to get the key of stone, they have to cross a river? Because I know that, and that the ferryman looks like a person, but is actually a dragon, a water dragon. And they must pay for the crossing with something. And if they refuse to pay, then they'll never get the key.
Yeah.
But by giving up wealth, they get the key.
Yeah.
Which teaches them to give up their wealth in the tomb as well.
Yeah.
The second key is the key of water. As the group travels to get the key of stone, they will come across a river. The ferryman is actually a water dragon in disguise. They will ask for let's say, they will ask for the most valuable item in an adventurer's pocket. So whether that's like a gemstone or a platinum or something like that. If the adventurers give this item, then the dragon will reveal themselves and tell them to maintain their... God, I'm sorry, I just lost the word. It's not chastity. What is...
Yeah, I don't think chastity is relevant.
No, there's like maintain their... Not charity. Maintain their... God, what is the word when you give away your wealth? You're not concerned with it.
Generosity, so.
You're what?
The only word I can think of right now is generosity, so.
Yeah, what was the word that you used to describe the wealth chamber? It's not it's God, what is it? Oh, this is gonna make me crazy.
Yeah, I'm beginning to see.
Temperance.
Temperance.
Is it temperance? Thank you. Okay. To maintain their temperance and not to let their greed lead them. Reveal themselves and tell them to maintain their temperance and not let their greed lead them. If they choose not to pay, the dragon will warn them that greed leads to destruction. But the adventurers will find the key of water on the shore of the river when they get to the other side. And finally, there is the third key, is the key of fire. All right. There is, let's see. So the third key is the key of fire. All right. So we've got one. So we've got a guardian lion. We have got a water dragon. What is a traditional fire creature?
Good question.
I know like Kirin are more associated with like forests, aren't they? And then the only one I can think of right now is Phoenix.
That works actually. Phoenixes, I think like phoenixes weren't always associated with fire, but in modern times they are. So
So we can do the third key is the key of fire. Oh, we can have, I would love if the key of stone and the key of fire are in the same place, but it's a riddle that you have to figure out.
okay.
Where it is the guardian lion has the key of stone and he hands it to them and says, release the one that, like, there's a whole bunch of prisoners in there, and release the one that deserves to be free. And really the key unlocks the Phoenix's cage, which is in his office. And then the key of fire is also in the cage.
I like it.
Third key is the key of fire. It is in the cage of a phoenix in the office of the guardian lion. All right, fabulous. Gordon is a guardian lion. Ooh, what if the guardian lion says something like, unlock the gate of the one you are unfit to judge?
I like it. Yeah.
And there is the lion will give you the key and tell you to unlock the cage of the one you are unfit to judge.
All right.
That while there are many prisoners, each will have a story to tell, but each is also guilty of the crime they are accused of. But there is a phoenix in a cage in the warden's office. This is the cage you must unlock. All right, fabulous. Awesome. Okay, so let's look at this adventure so far. You are summoned by the magistrate because you are local heroes to go and retrieve the Book of Ways from the burial chamber of Emperor Sheen. Emperor Shin ruled, you learn the history of this, how he ruled. He had his dragon, he mounted an assault on heaven, and was punished to essentially read philosophy for the rest of his days. Yep. You are told that there are 3 keys needed to open the tomb. The first key that you potentially can get is the key of water, which is provided by a water dragon disguise.
Mm-hmm.
depending on what you do. Then the other two keys are in the prison,
Mm-hmm.
and the guardian lion and the phoenix will be there respectively. Okay, now I feel like each one of them has to come back in chapter 3. So in chapter 3, let's see.
Well, they can come back after you leave the tomb, or is that?
Well, I'm thinking that if you solve, yes, they can come back after you. I was thinking that, like, if you did something, then they could come and help you during the big craziness that happens. But having a water dragon and a phoenix and a
Yeah.
guardian lion is probably a bit much.
Yeah. So they could come back after. So it could be like when you leave the tomb, they could like be waiting to like say, "Hey, you did a good job." You know.
Oh, it could be in chapter 2. Each box of different material. When you choose the right box, the face of the guardian lion appears to you and nods in appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put treasure in the pile and leave, you will see the image of the water dragon reveal itself and nod to you. And when you solve the puzzle, the phoenix will appear to you and nod. So, there's something that lets you know that you did something right, in that situation. And then in the dragon's room, there's just nothing. It's still just scary and empty. All right, cool. So we've got that. So you get the 3 keys, you head off to the fabulous tomb. You get there. There is it's pretty empty. There's the bed chamber. There are the guardians. There's the book on the nightstand that hasn't been opened. The book can be used to explore the 4 other rooms in the tomb. But if you try to cross the threshold with the book, all of the traps will spring into action immediately. There is only when the dragon blood ooze has been defeated, can you actually leave the tomb safely. And then in chapter 3, you've got crazy fucking trap.
Mm-hmm.
And a weird big ooze that's immune to a whole bunch of stuff.
Yep.
So, how do we like that? How do we feel about that?
It took a few directions that I wasn't expecting, but I overall feel very positive about this.
Yay! So let's look at the resolutions. So, what's the point of all this? What is the magistrate going to do when he has the book?
Well, what I was thinking was the goal of getting the book back in the first place is to take that knowledge and distribute it amongst people so we can live better.
Fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
So the magistrate takes the book of ways that was never even read by the emperor and uses it to improve the lives of all their people.
Well, not only
Uh-huh.
that, but well, yeah. What I mean is, like, there's some examples of how the book could teach, like, hey, you remember those prisoners from earlier? Maybe don't execute them for being mean. So
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. So
People. It helps to create mercy in the legal system and relaxes the castes, allowing everyone to benefit more fully from their society. And what are the rewards? Because if you take anything from the temple, then it gets crazy. Um,
hmm.
you know what? I feel like the three guardians are
Mhm.
the ones that will provide the rewards,
Yeah.
right? So for each, I feel like for each trap that you overcome, either by, and since these are players, that they will expect a reward for getting through the trap in general. So either by surviving it or by disarming it. There is rewards A. Um, the water dragon will offer up. Um, what is something that is? I know they're generally associated with pearls. Um, what is something that a magic item that would be delightful?
I don't know.
Let's look at, you know what? Let's look at fizz bands. Let's see if there's anything in fizz bands that would be fabulous for a water dragon. All right, let's see. Where are we? Let's look. Magic items. There we go. Let's check this out. So there is Dragon Lance, Dragon Wing Bow, Emerald Pen, Flail of Tiamat, Platinum Scarf, Potion, Ruby, Sapphire Buckler, Topaz, Annihilator. All right. I feel like no, that's not super. That's for monks specifically. Ooh. Oh my goodness. The Amethyst Lodestone is pretty awesome. It's got 6 charges. While you're carrying it, you have advantage on strength saving throws. You can use a charge to gain flight for 10 minutes. You can use a charge to focus gravity around a creature you see within 60 feet and push it 20 feet in a direction. Or you can use 3 charges to cast reverse gravity. So I feel like you could absolutely re-skin that into, like, you're not reversing gravity, you're just like filling the area with water
I love
instead, so
that.
they start floating up.
Yeah, definitely works.
All right, let's do, so the water dragon will offer up the Amethyst Lodestone for surviving and delivering the Book of Ways to the town. So that's the first thing. I feel like the phoenix, because it has connotations of life and death, like putting Gong Gong out of its misery, like ending its long guardianship, its long trial of guarding this tomb. It will be the thing the Phoenix rewards you for, you
Yeah,
know,
like imagine just being in a tomb with like the worst inmate ever.
right?
Like,
The
or
Phoenix will reward you with, um, let's see, it should be, I feel like something fire related. Um, let's check out some other magic items. Ooh, I feel like, is there necklace of fireballs in 5e?
yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Necklace of fireballs. That is, I feel like that's legit. Yeah, allowing anybody to throw fireballs. I think that'll be delightful.
Well, you know what they say. If the enemy brings fireworks, bring fireballs.
That's right.
Fireworks, you know?
Reward you with a necklace of fireballs that is shaped like a phoenix. And the guardian lion. I feel like something protective. Maybe a shield would be good there. A guardian lion, what sort of fabulousness does it bring?
Well, guardian lions are kind of the statues put in some places to like symbolically protect them. So maybe like a magical shield that like protects you.
Let's look at, okay, so shield. Nope, I spelled that wrong. Shield. There we go. Now let's see. All right, so we've got battering shield, animated shield, shield of expression, shield of farsight. Ooh, that's very rare. Oof, I don't know if I think that might be a bit much for a 6th or 7th level.
Well, what about the animated shield?
The animated shield is very rare too.
Ah, that's a fair point.
Let's you know what might be good is the battering shield. But instead of it like battering, what it does is it releases this huge lion's roar.
I love it.
You know?
Yeah.
Let's see. So the guardian lion will offer you the battering shield.
I even had an idea like in a lot of like ancient architecture and even like modern architecture designed to look like that old style. There's the lion's head that's built into doors.
Yeah.
And the shield could be built like that. So, which
absolutely
is pretty cool. Also,
using the lion's roar. All right, fabulous. I love it. Yes. So now, what cover do you want on it? What does that look like?
you know what would be? You know what I was thinking? What if like we could have one of the stone warriors on the cover?
Fabulous. I love it. Do you want them to be like inside the tomb? Do you want them outside the tomb? Do you want like
Maybe
do you
like
want to show them
warrior, like posing dramatically inside the tomb, you know?
Fabulous. All right, so the cover will be a stone warrior stationed inside the tomb.
Mm-hmm.
And on the inside, we've got a map of the tomb. And what's one other thing that we want to see in there? Do you want to do the bedchamber, or do you want to do like a picture of the 3 companions?
The bedchamber would be cool. The murals on the wall in the fourth room. You could like actually make a picture of the murals. So
The tomb. Honestly, that might be a bit complex for an
Okay,
internal picture.
that's fair.
Let me see.
Well, it's logistically difficult. We can do something else. That's fine. Maybe instead, hmm. Hmm. Well, you mentioned the free companions. We can definitely do that.
Fabulous. Let's do then 3 companions.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon, Phoenix, and Lion. Okay. Fabulous. I
Mhm.
love it. Guess what? We have an adventure.
We do. Yeah, we do.
Yay! I love it. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Um, thank you so much for sharing with us and for helping to create this fabulous thing, which we will now get started doing some art for, laying it out, getting it all prettied up,
Yeah.
and ready to go out there. Tell the people at home, where can they find you?
You can find my itch.io account. My social media is going to be linked, and I'll have more updates soon. So
Fabulous. Yay. And thank you to the Foundation for Inclusivity in Gaming for hosting this and helping to pay for all of this. This is going to be absolutely fabulous. I'm super excited about this. There is yay. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you very, very much. We are now going to go raid someone fabulous. So stick around for that. Get you some channel points from everybody's favorite channels. And we will see you next time. Mwah!